Hey everyone, Dr. Beyer of Functional Medicine Solutions, and this video is about for those specifically suffering with Hashimoto's and wondering, is there even anything that can be done about it? Because a lot of times in the years that I've been practicing, patients who come to me already knowing that they have Hashimoto's are thinking, hey, there's really not too much to be done for it. It's an autoimmune condition, and the medical doctors really have zero, zilch, nada to offer for any autoimmune condition, in my opinion, Hashimoto's being one of them. They just continue to put or have patients or have people take thyroid hormone, which does nothing to slow down the attacks on the thyroid. That's the issue. It's an immune system dysfunction, and while some people need some compensatory thyroid hormone because they've had enough glandular destruction that warrants that, the thyroid hormone intervention does nothing to slow down the attacks, which means they'll just continue to get more and more thyroid gland dysfunction. And what's even worse is that a fairly high percentage of the time, people who have Hashimoto's will start to have the immune system attack and destroy other tissues of the body. And that's just a total shame, because there absolutely is something that can be done to correct that immune system dysfunction, to dramatically slow down the immune attacks. You can't cure an autoimmune condition, but Hashimoto's is a very good example of an autoimmune condition that can very, very effectively be managed, so much so that a high percentage of my Hashimoto sufferers say, hey, are you sure you didn't cure it? Because I feel like it's cured. And I tell them, look, once it's there, you can't cure it, but you can manage it so well that it almost feels as if you're cured. And again, the traditional medical approach of just giving thyroid hormone does nothing to correct the immune dysfunction. Here is what needs to be done. I'm going to kind of keep it simple and outline or go over the 5 main things that we look for. With autoimmune conditions, including Hashimoto's, there's some kind of stress to the immune system that's causing the immune system to dysfunction in such a way that one part of the immune system is really more active than it should be, while another part of the immune system is not active enough. There are different parts of their immune system, and the 2 parts that are imbalanced with Hashimoto's are the T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells. I don't want to get too far off into the weeds and bore anybody, but in a normal functioning immune system, the activity level of the T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells is pretty equal the majority of times. But in someone who has Hashimoto's, the activity level is really polarized. One is very, very overactive and one is underactive. And here's where we get to how we can help people. There are stressors to the immune system that have caused and that continue to cause that polarity in the activity level of the immune system. And when you identify and address those stressors to the immune system, you get a rebalancing of the T helper 1 and T helper 2 parts of the immune system. That equates to less attacks on the thyroid gland, which of course equates to you, the patient, feeling better. So what do we look for in my office? Not sometimes, but all the times, there are food sensitivities. It's just a matter of what foods the immune system is reacting to, and using a lab that is specialized in checking for food sensitivities. Some labs are better at it than others. And so we check for food sensitivities. We heal the permeability problem within the gut, or the leaky gut, because whenever someone has an autoimmune condition, not only are there, and the first 2 go hand in hand, not only are there food sensitivities, but there is a permeability problem or a leakiness within the mucosal lining of the GI tract that's allowing those food proteins or peptides to get through into the bloodstream bigger than what they should be, provoking immune attacks. So we identify with the right labs what foods you, the patient, are reacting to, and we have you go through dietary protocols to heal leaky gut. The third thing we look for is whether or not there's any actual infections in the gut, whether or not there are gut symptoms such as bloating or gas or constipation or diarrhea. Even in the absence of those symptoms, there can be microbial infections. We check the microbiome, as it's called. We measure the levels of good bacteria to see if the normal flora is as it should be, if there's the sufficient amounts of the good beneficial bacteria, but use a lab that checks for abnormal bacteria, parasites, and or yeast. And if those microorganisms are there, by killing them off, you take a lot of stress off the immune system. So we check for food sensitivities, we heal up the leaky gut, we check to see if check the microbiome of the GI tract and clear up any infections within there. And a lot of times people will have chronic viral infection stress to their immune system. We can pinpoint that with some specialized testing, but even in the initial blood chemistry panel that we do, by evaluating it from a functional standpoint and looking at the ratio of the lymphocytes and neutrophils, which are different types of white blood cells, we can get an idea of whether or not there's a viral stress there. And then if it looks like there is, more specifically, with more specific labs, identify what that viral stress is, and then we can address that. Take some stress off the immune system also. The other thing that we find with Hashimoto sufferers is that they, like 100% across the board, they have vitamin D deficiencies. And part of that is due to they're not absorbing it very well due to the leaky gut and gut inflammatory issues that they have. But I found that most people with Hashimoto's just have a higher need for vitamin D than the average patient. I think that's just because of the ongoing stress to their immune system. So we, of course, measure vitamin D on our initial blood chemistry panels and go about correcting that with high-quality vitamin D supplements. Vitamin D is important for a number of things, not the least of which is for proper immune system function. So there's other things we do. We do things to suppress the activity level of a third part of the immune system, where the T helper 17 cells tend to be a bit overactive, and there's nutritional compounds that can lower the activity of that. And then there are T regulatory cells. The T helper 3 cells help balance out the T helper 1 and T helper 2 cells that are imbalanced. And there's nutritional compounds that can, such as glutathione and vitamin D, which can help support those T regulatory cells. So there's a lot to be done for Hashimoto sufferers. You should in no way, shape, or form accept the response that, hey, you just have to live with it. Your thyroid gland's just going to get burned out eventually. Again, we have a fairly high percentage of our patients ask, did you actually cure it? Because I feel that much better. So hope that helps. If you're a Hashimoto sufferer, there's definitely things you can and should be doing. Those are the 5 big areas of stress that we look for to the immune system, because that's the problem with Hashimoto's. It's an immune system dysfunction. And when you identify the stressors, and again, the 5 big ones are food sensitivities, leaky gut or intestinal permeability, gut infection, chronic viral infection, and a vitamin D deficiency, and then do other things combined with that to suppress the T helper 17 system and support the T regulatory cells, you can feel a ton better. There's always some other concomitant metabolic issues, blood sugar irregularities, adrenal gland dysfunction, which correcting that's kind of the icing on the cake, but that's kind of the crux or the mainstay of our approach for Hashimoto sufferers. And so if you're suffering with that, you definitely can get some relief. Hope this video helps. As always, have any questions, email, give us a call. I offer free 15-minute kind of Ask Dr. Beyer sessions is what we call it, where we can do that either via video cam or on the phone. You can just pick my brain a little bit if you got some specific questions. Would love to help you if you're suffering with a chronic condition. If you're not already on my website, which is functionalmedicinesolutions.net, take a look. A lot of great information there.